You're listening to Opera Box Score.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Wherever you are, however you're listening, it's America's talk radio show about opera. It's Opera Box Score. I'm Weston Williams, joined by Oliver Camacho and Matt Cummings. All right, this week it's Monday Evening Quarterback on the 2025 Boston Early Music Festival, and we'll be joined by Amanda Forsythe with a scoop on the 2027 Centerpiece opera. We promise this is the only opera podcast talking Telemann. And then the centenary of Dietrich Fischer Dieskau's birth was last month, and we have a free throw from one of his last pupils, Benjamin Appl. Considered to be one of the all-time great leader interpreters, we will consider Dieskau's notable opera roles. Plus, in the 2-minute drill, a decline in tourism coupled with the rise in deportations may be adversely affecting ticket sales at the Met, but that's not stopping the Laffont competition from scouting in South America. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. Click follow on Apple Podcasts. Hit the plus sign. Email us your hot takes by writing to mailbag@operaboxscore.com or upload a voice memo using the You Got Something to Say tab on our website, operaboxscore.com. However you contribute, you'll get an OBS beer coaster, an OBS lapel pin, and a #1 OBS fan foam finger just for sharing your own hot take. And without further ado, Oliver, you and I are not alone.
Can you believe that the clay court season has already begun?
Oh my God, he's talking about tennis every single time. Matt's sitting there. The audience has been waiting with bated breath for Matt's return.
I was going to leave, honestly, but go ahead,
okay.
Oliver.
No, it's okay. Well, it just means that we're on a quick march to Wimbledon, which is, to me, the most important tournament of the year. I'm so excited, and it's going to be... there's a very special event happening in June. By the time you hear this, it'll just be, well, there's that too. But a certain podcaster is reaching a round-numbered birthday. Yes, 90. So everything is conspiring to make June just the best month ever.
It's just busting out all over, as they say.
It truly is. Matt Cummings, what's busting out in your world?
It is kind of busting out of my usual mode that I have something to say in the sports talk section, but as always,
Shocking.
It's just mostly related to like hometown talk, which is I wasn't on the show last week when the news came out about the Steelers for some reason signing old anti-vaxxer Aaron Rodgers onto their squad, and I've heard lots of talk since I've been home about people who are just going to be tuning this whole season out. But what I will say, I'll do a preemptive bad call here, which to the t-shirt that I saw in the Strip District that was Aaron Rodgers' face photoshopped onto Mr. Rogers' body and Mr. Rogers' neighborhood with a D, canceled. If you buy it, I'm disowning you.
Oh wait, don't we have something from Ashley about she was at the Pope's Mass? Yeah, she was at the Cardinal. So in Chicago, they did a mass on the field where the White Sox play, guaranteed rate.
Yeah, I believe Ashley's report was that the chorus was poorly mic'd, but that's all I can recall, which is really unfortunate. Luckily, we've never, ever had a microphone issue on any of our shows at Opera Box Score.
Tech,
Let's
all the
talk
time.
some opera.
Pass or fail? Here's Monday Evening Quarterback.
So we're recording on our normal day. Oh, no, we're not. We're recording on Tuesday this time.
The most abnormal day of the week.
Yeah, on June 17th. And the festival, the Boston portion of the festival ended on Sunday the 15th. There's a little bonus festival that happens in the Hampshires or in, I forget, there's another outpost.
The Berkshires?
The Berkshires, yes. The Hampshires is in here.
In Berkford, Bereford, and Berkshire.
But I was in Boston for almost all of it, and I got to see so many performances. And it's after a while, it's overwhelming because the quality of the performances are so high that you don't know what's good anymore. And like when something is bad, it's really obvious. But everything is so good. It's like, if only life could be like this, like every time you went to a concert, that it was that good.
Here, life is beautiful.
I'm not trying to blow smoke up their butt, their collective festival butt, because they treat me so well over there. It really is such an incredible experience. Starting with the Centerpiece opera, a rarity by Reinhard Kaiser called Octavia, which apparently was released around the same time that Handel's opera Nero on the same subject was also at the Hamburg Theater. So Octavia sort of like pushed
Dueling Emperors.
Pushed Nero. It's the same plot, actually. The version we had in Boston by Reinhard Kaiser starred friend of the show Emeka Borat, friend of the show Douglas Williams. He goes by Douglas Ray Williams now. Friend of the show Amanda Forsythe, who we'll hear from shortly. Friend of the show Aaron Sheehan, and friend of the show Michael Skarke in the cast. Also in the cast, friend of Oliver's, soprano Hannah DePriest, and Sherazade.
Tough that you haven't been able to land that interview yet, but we'll leave that for later.
And then they have the touring ensembles which come through. Vox Luminis from Belgium came through. Hanna Blazikova came through with her band, actually the band is called Constantinople, and she was a guest artist on Constantinople.
No, it's Istanbul.
And Constantinople's current program is Bach and Persian. I want to say it's Mugam. I'm not sure exactly what the genre of music is, but it's like Persian folk music. And like the director of Constantinople like plays the sitar and like sings basically Mugam, and Hanna Blazikova comes in and sings like a Bach aria, and then they smash it together like in Xanadu, and it's so cool. What else? There was a group called Concerto Romano, which did an entire evening of on travesti roles, like the nanny or the nurse role, nutrice roles in the Seicento Italian operas is like a very standard character, and it was an entire program of that. Hilarious, but done in drag.
Incredible, honestly.
Done in drag, actually. And it's had so much text, and we didn't really have translations. It was at 10:30 at night, and we couldn't see our program, so we all had to just imagine what Nutrice was talking about.
Probably sex.
Aaron Sheehan gave a delightful recital with Paul Odette of Lute Song. Gorgeous. On Friday, things start to heat up. There was the Young Artist Opera. So they have a Young Artist program, and they did about 90 minutes, almost 2 hours of Handel's Agrippina to coincide with Octavia, keeping in the Nero world.
The Julio-Claudian line lives on at
Banff. And I have to say, I'm going to list all of the cast because I don't want to forget anybody. But Agrippina was Anna Bjerken, Palante was Seth Hobel, Claudio was Raphael Ladin Gandon, Ottone was Reed Demangani, and standout Popea, Andrea Walker, and crazy world-class performance given by a recent Curtis graduate named Sam Higgins, countertenor. I did not look at his bio. He is actually, since he's a young artist, he has to basically be a supernumerary and chorus in the main festival opera. So I had no idea what his singing was going to be like. He didn't appear in any of the other fringe concerts. Some of these young artists take the opportunity to do their own fringe concert. He didn't. He was just saving it for the Young Artist Opera. He blew me away. He literally just graduated from his undergrad, and he sounds like world class. Remember this name, Sam Higgins, countertenor. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Then on Saturday, we had the Telemann double bill opera, Pimpinone with Danielle Ruder-Hurrah and Christian Immler, and Amanda Forsythe singing Ino, which is essentially a one-woman show. It's a long cantata with crazy, difficult arias. We're going to hear one of those in a minute. And then after the Telemann double bill, they have like the kind of festival closing Saturday late night concert, which has everybody in it. Like I wish I had the sort of like, what is this character from Saturday Night Live?
Amigos para siempre.
Is it Bruno? Not Bruno. The one who flirts with Seth Meyers in the news who talks about it had everything. Oh God, what's his character's name?
Stefan,
yeah. This concert had everything. Basically, all of the stars of the opera come out and do like really fun, like Monteverdi, that type of thing, like with chaconnes and stuff like that. And it's just so charming. Such a joy. Anyway, I love the festival. It, it does not disappoint. And they really are achieving their mission of, trying to propagate this music and make it vital and, bringing in the next generation. And one thing that I failed to add to my little punch list here is that they showed a documentary of the 2023 festival. The centerpiece opera for that was Desmarais' Circe. And the French contralto Lucille Richardot was set to sing the title role. She was on the recording, which they recorded in Bremen like they always do. And first tragedy that we learned about in this documentary was that their longtime recording producer died like 10 days after the recording sessions of Circe. And then just as rehearsals were beginning for Circe in May of last year, Lucille Richardot had a family emergency and they had to find a replacement as quickly as possible, learn a French Baroque opera and get into rehearsals like immediately. And the only person they could think of who could possibly do it was Karina Gauvin, who had so many engagements. Like there was no way she was going to be able to get out of all of her things she needed to get out of. But they convinced her and she did it and she learned it on the fly and she had so many coachings and it was so emotional that, they did this, the finale or the conclusion of this documentary was this like reception that they had at the opening of the last festival in 2023, where they were all toasting Karina Gauvin for putting herself through this. And Karina Gauvin started crying and like everybody in the audience is crying and I'm crying. It's like, it was really, really amazing. And I remember that opera being so gorgeous. Anyway, I had a chance to sit down with Amanda Forsythe. She has a brand new CD, which is just about to drop with the continuo band called Opera Prima, led from the viola da gamba by Cristiano Contadin. Let's listen to a little bit of one of the arias from that album.
So this is my report from the Boston Early Music Festival. I'm in my hotel room with Amanda Forsythe. I'm so excited about I haven't seen it yet. I'm excited about your chamber opera thing, the Eno cantata. And then you get to sing the late night concert on Saturday with America and other people. How is it singing with America? I mean, when I saw her in Orlando, Generoso in 2019, I was like, who is this woman?
Right?
She is like 8 feet tall on stage and she's like, if a look could kill.
No, seriously. In fact, we have a scene in the opera where she sort of chases me off the stage with her eyes. She's actually such a nice person. But she does tend to play these steely characters very well. And her voice is just so different to most of the other singers that come to Banff.
I feel like she's to hell with it. She's like, I don't care. Like, if I get through this aria, I'm going to just give you this very exciting moment.
Exactly. And it's just such a warm sound. I really like singers that you can identify right away when you hear them. I mean, I hear Emmerke's voice and I'm like, right, that couldn't be anyone else. And Christian Imler, another stable horse of the Boston Early Music Festival, is another one of those. When I hear him on the radio, I'm like, oh, it's Christian.
So you are now at this point used to doing these operas, the French ones, the Seicento ones, the Italian ones, and now you're getting more experience in this German. Is this the first German you've done with them?
I want want
Because like the Stradicus, whatever got canceled, there was like one weird.
I think, but they did make a
Graupner
recording of that.
Yeah. Have you ever done a Kaiser before?
No.
Oh, you did Elmira. So.
Well, was that German? Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess. Well, Kaiser is kind of in the same vein. Half the arias are in Italian.
Yeah.
As was Elmira. So I think of Elmira as an Italian opera, but you're right, it was a Hamburg opera. So bravo.
Are you starting to understand like what you need to bring to each other? Like when you see it's going to be early Handel or Kaiser, they're going to want me to sing lots of like, instrumental lines and it's going to be crazy,
This piece is just kooky. I mean, it was really hard to learn and everybody has said that it's been impossible to memorize. And I don't know if even the native German speakers have found it really difficult. It just doesn't go where you're expecting it to go ever. And it's also peppered with little snippets of things that you hear Handel has stolen and later, like, I don't want to say improves, but expands upon. But there's direct quotes. He says it later in Agrippina. So keep your ears open.
But now with like the French stuff, it's going to be a little bit lower, right?
The French, they always do it 392. This one, actually, we are doing it 392 as well, which would have been the convention at the time. But that's because it sits like crazy high. In fact, we were supposed to do this at 450, and some of us may have complained. I like high. I like singing high, but this was we sounded like chickens. So
do you ever feel like when you're doing the really chatty stuff like Lee, that you can't find your tone? Like you can't find your voce spietato, like the free tone. I don't know if I said that right in the time.
No, not really. The French, when I think of the French music, I just think of like really relaxed and like just trilling and grooving. Like that's how I approach all that music. It's all doobie 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 doobie. Yeah.
No, sometimes when I hear other singers in music that has lots of text and lots of, recitative, especially in French, I feel like they get trapped up,
Yeah, there's not as many melodies in the French operas. It's more these big sort of recitative scenes with little arioso duets or solo sections just sprinkled. But you're less likely to walk out humming a tune.
Yeah.
One thing that you should listen out for tonight in the Kaiser opera, there is one aria that is absolutely to die for. It comes in the second part, and it's sung by Octavia. It's called Gute Nacht. And the structure of it is very similar to the aria that we listened to from Handel's Il Trionfo, Tu del Ciel. It has just these chords with a beautiful melody suspended.
Are you saying that Handel ripped them off?
I'm suggesting that they were all collaborating together.
Yeah. Was Handel a student of Kaiser? Is that?
No, I don't think so. But they were both working in Hamburg at the same time. So Elmira came before this Kaiser opera. In fact, I think somebody told me that Geloso Sospetto is a direct response to Geloso Tormento from Elmira.
All those gelosos.
And in fact, the whole opera was a response to Handel's Nerone. So here we have Octavia. But they're very different, very, very different.
And finally, we have a new album from you and Opera Prima of Handel cantatas and arias. And you sing this Agrippina Condotta a morire. Have you had a chance to sing that on stage yet? Or
I have sung it a million times on stage. This is one of my, I don't want to say it's a party piece, but because it's such a portable concert, it's just 5 instrumentalists, or you could even do it with 4. And myself, as a stage piece, I hope that it's interesting. It's so dramatic, and it's basically just Agrippina screaming for half an hour. And I always am like, is this too intense for people? Because I sang it once on Mother's Day, and of course, it's all about her like wanting her son to be dead. My children were in the audience that time. But it's such a perfect little drama. It's actually quite incredible, and you'll hear. In the entire cantata. The first 2 arias are quite florid and coloratory, and then it goes just back and forth between these short arias and recitatives. And she keeps wavering. She says, Nero, I hate him. He's plotting to kill me. I wish he would die. Oh, but he's my son, and I gave birth to him. And she goes back and forth several times, and in the end, she sort of accepts her fate. But I think it's one of his greatest solo cantatas.
And that was the finale of Eno that we all heard on Saturday night in the Telemann double bill, which literally brought the house down. Like, there was still one more act of the double bill to go, and we might as well stop the show right there because nothing was going to top that. Like, the audience went like ape poop. We try not to swear here. So, fantastic. That is from a recording of Telemann arias and Eno with the Boston Early Music Festival.
Well, if you want to support Oliver's crippling addiction to Boston Early Music Festival, you can go on our website and make a donation there. Or you can just subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, click follow, Apple Podcasts, hit the plus sign. If you know anyone who is even a little bit interested in Baroque music, tell them that you have to listen to this episode with Oliver. Make them subscribe. Give us a review. You know the drill. Let's do a free throw.
Free throw.
So for my other job, I get to interview Benjamin Appl on the occasion of his brand new album For Dieter.
It's a good album, too.
An homage to Dietrich Fischer Dieskau. A really cool album, too, that like sort of gives you Dietrich Fischer Dieskau's life story in song. It talks about like his relationships and having children and having music composed for him and what it was like when he was a soldier and as a prisoner of war, like all these episodes in his life told through song. And it ends, of course, with the Schumann Requiem, which is a really emotional way to conclude the album. So I got a chance to talk to Benjamin for my other job, and with the extra minutes we had left, I wanted to know what he thought about his teacher's opera career. I love your new recording that's dedicated to Dietrich Fischer Dieskau. So I guess I'll have you talk a little bit about opera. But before we talk about him, what is your own relationship to opera? Are you interested at all in doing this? Or is this like you've already established yourself as a certain type of singer and you don't need to be locked up in a rehearsal for 6 weeks at a time?
No. I mean, opera, when everything comes together, is the most extraordinary art form. I do opera. I do normally one opera per year. For myself, somehow that's a good balance because my passion lies in song recitals, and that's what I do mostly, then orchestral work and one opera per year, because I think there's nothing more inspiring than working with great stage directors, with a good conductor, and also to see what other colleagues do and feel inspired by them.
Do you feel like you have to, beef up your sound, and does it limit what is special about your singing? These colors and the language that you might have to sacrifice in order to be heard in a larger space?
I think it's difficult to say, but I always use actually a image from painting. So when I sing song recitals, I feel it's a little piece of paper in front of me, and I try to draw with very fine brushes and very pastel colors, very, very pink. And when I sing opera, it's a big, huge canvas with bright colors and a huge brush splashing a lot of color on the canvas. And in the end, you are still the same painter, but maybe you just use different techniques and imagination.
I once did a comparison of Rigolettos, and I listened to all these like Italian baritones and American baritones, and ultimately Dietrich Fischer Dieskau included in the mix. And just to hear like, how do you, I think it's one of the great roles in opera. It's Shakespearean, and there's so much possibility for, a leader singer's approach to some of these lines, but you still have to sing bel canto. You still have to, sing a line, and you have to, try to imagine what the soprano is going to do, and to maybe a little give and take, like the phrasing, so that, she is able to replicate it, or whoever you're singing a duet with. But there's this moment in Rigoletto. I don't know how well you know the opera, but it's in the duet with Gilda, and it's the phrase is "De non parlare al misero," and I have to say Dietrich Fischer Dieskau, maybe he does it the best out of everybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because he is really thinking about the words, and he's really breaking your heart, thinking about the wife that died, and like suddenly Dieskau is able to bring in this maybe personal tragedy, I don't know what he's drawing from. I mean, he's a genius, obviously, but I don't know. It strikes me that may be one of his best recordings, and it's not a leader recording. It's bel canto cantilena,
I mean, he did 108 opera roles, and a lot of people forget about that. What he does is he brings the opera roll into his world. And I think either people like it or don't like it. I think people who are used to a certain sound, a certain way of phrasing, they probably dislike his singing. And I know a lot of people who actually are very critical of his opera singing. But then an artist also has to understand that you won't be liked by 100%. There's no pope, no politician, no pop star in this world who will be liked by 100%. And despite opera singers always want to be like golden retrievers or labradors, loved by everyone, we are not loved by everyone, and that's also fine.
Your career has taken you to the U.S., and I think you might have a grasp of how Americans may be more open about their emotions and are willing to talk about things that, maybe certain cultures in Europe is just not like that's not how we present ourselves. But can I get you to maybe think about the American audience and tell us about your relationship with Dietrich Fischer Dieskau and what it meant to you? If you can just open up a little bit and share some very personal things, I think would be very meaningful, at least to me.
Well, when I met Fischer Dieskau, I was absolutely nervous. I listened recently to the first recording of the masterclass for the very first day I met him. I mean, my voice is shaking, the vibrato is incredibly fast, I'm not very stable on my legs and so on. But then I saw other videos a year later, and suddenly you feel really almost like this friendship between those two people on stage. And particularly when he was at home and there was no audience around, he opened up, and sometimes he danced around like a little child, and sometimes he presented himself like a woman who runs a brothel, and all of these things really like things I would have never imagined with someone who is associated being always serious and very shielded. And these are all incredible moments that I'm so grateful for that I was allowed to share with him. He was just very special and had so many different facets in his personality.
I would love to just end it there, but I have to ask, we talked about this on my other interview for the radio show, about the comparison of tone quality. Do you think that maybe Dietrich Fischer Dieskau realized that, the universe or God or whatever divinity forces left somebody on this planet who could be like a vocal twin? Like if there's ever a life movie made about his biography, that you would play it because you sound so similar?
I don't think so. I think he sounds 10 times better, and he's an idol till today. But as I say, he's my idol, and therefore often I listen to his recordings. Often I think back what he would say when I learn a new song. He was unique, and there won't be anyone like him. He knew how to use also the microphone like no one else. People say his longest marriage out of being married 4 times with women, people say his longest marriage actually, which lasted for entire life, was with the microphone, and it's true. He just also knew how to use the microphone, and but nevertheless, he was one of the greatest singers, that's for sure.
The hilarious. I was asking Benjamin about this Rigoletto recording, and I haven't listened to that recording since the opera nowadays, and I thought I would pull it up and share it for all of you.
Besides when we played a clip of it on this show for Rigoletto Off.
We did?
With special guest Michael Rice, yeah.
Oh, did I play this very clip? Do you remember?
I don't know, not this clip. I think we did Cortigiani selection.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to hide. I'm going to let Weston drop this thing in the way we found it. It could be just the YouTube transfer, but I doubt it. There is a little editing that's happening here from Deutsche Grammophon that's very apparent. But once you get past that awkward blip, do pay attention to the phrasing of this. It's so detailed. So we don't think that much about Dieskau in Italian opera. Matt, I'll pass it over to you. When you think about Dieskau's opera rolls, what do you think?
I mean, he certainly did record an awful lot of Verdi. I think the one that hits the best for me, other than the Rigoletto, is on the Scholti Don Carlo, where he plays Posa against Carlo Bergonzi's Don Carlo and Grace Bumbry's Appl. And that confrontation scene in particular is just like absolutely barnstorming. But where I tend to find Fischer Dieskau like to be most effective in opera are in operas where the baritone role has like very leader-esque elements to it. Mm-hmm. And so that's definitely true of his Papageno, which one of the first opera recordings I ever listened to when I was a young teenager whose voice teacher was like, you should really learn about opera, was the Karl Böhm Magic Flute, where he and Fritz Wunderlich are simply the most luxuriously cast Mozart leads of any recording ever, and it is worth putting up with the horrifically slow tempi and Symphony of 1,000 type aesthetics of mid-century Mozart just to listen to how good they sound. And you can definitely say the same of like him as Harlequin in Ariadne of Naxos, where he has that song in the middle of the second act that he just delivers, Liebe Hasen Hoffenzagen, that like is delivered with all of the text specificity that you would expect from the world's foremost interpreter of lieder. And then I would say he also recorded an awful and performed in an awful lot of Wagner operas. And I'm going to scoop Weston to be the person to put a Wagner clip onto the show. Let's listen to a clip of the O du mein holder Abendstern aria from Act 3 of Tannhäuser. And this is one of the sparsest, most fragile, most delicate moments in any opera whatsoever. And it is absolutely screaming for as intelligent of a musician with as much control over his voice and especially unbeatable German diction. Let's hear a clip from the Konvichny studio set.
Vom schwebt dem Tal der Erden ein seliger Engel dort zu werden, wenn sie entschwebt dem Tal der Erden ein seliger Engel dort zu
I mean, I think one of the cool things about Dietrich Fischer Dieskau as an opera singer is that you don't quite expect it. I feel like, I back in the days where I was much younger, didn't really care about singers very much, not beating the allegations there. I was, just listening to the composer first, and like I didn't really ever look at who was singing what for the most part. But through my father, who is a big leader person, I knew Dietrich Fischer Dieskau as like the guy who does the leader, obviously, and
The leader of the pack.
The leader of the pack. But I heard all his Schubert and, the Brahms and stuff. It's one of those things that, he's got such a, he's so smart with how he thinks about the text. I think he really shines when he's singing in German, his native language, because he gets the kind of specificity that you'd want out of a Monteverdi opera. Like every note makes perfect sense and is thought about, sometimes almost to the detriment of stuff where maybe there wasn't that much in the music to support that level of textual analysis, perhaps. That's maybe the harshest thing I can say against Dietrich Fischer Dieskau, is that he was too good. But eventually, as I kind of got more into my weird 20th century opera obsession, I started to realize that Dietrich Fischer Dieskau appeared on a ton of new-ish works. He was, I feel like a lot of people still think about him as like the guy who's doing, the small scale, really intelligent interpretations of like these small scale art songs, but he could really pull out the stops and do something with a lot of these really harsh 20th century composers. I mean, I remember Ferruccio Busoni's Dr. Faust, the best Faust opera out there. I said it, and I'm right.
Wow, Mephistopheles erasure.
That one's pretty good too. A lot of works by Hans Werner Henze. He either sang and recorded or had the roles written for him, including some like the really thorny political stuff in the 60s, like Der Floss der Medusa, which is technically an oratorio, but it's very operatic. He also premiered Elegy for Young Lovers along those same lines. He did just a few weeks ago, actually, maybe a couple months ago at this point, we were talking about people who are opera people looking at vocal orchestral works, and I brought out Buried Alive, the Ottmar Schirk song cycle, and that was sung by Dietrich Fischer Dieskau there too. He was a huge proponent of Ottmar Schirk and this sort of like edgy mid-20th century style that we don't necessarily think of. I think he has a very different kind of voice when he's singing something operatically like that. Like, he has all the intelligence that you would expect from Fischer Dieskau, but there's an intensity there that you don't necessarily see in a lot of his lieder.
Which I think is interesting because it's such a recognizable voice. Like,
it really
you can
is.
pick him out of a lineup.
Absolutely. And there's something like, so like, I think part of it is literally just like, singing, because he's acting, right? He has something else to play off of. All of his textual instincts come out. And of course, he's supported by a full orchestra as well. This isn't just, a solo leader, but they're even more than an oratorio. Like, he really embodies these roles vocally at the very least. And he can really do it all. There's a lot of like atonal stuff out there. He had stuff written for him by like Ernst Krenek, microtones. He can really do it all. And I had to throw in a little bit of something that has microtones and atonality just for the listening pleasure of all of our viewers and Oliver Camacho specifically. This is the from the 1978 premiere of one of my favorite works that was written for Dietrich Fischer Dieskau. This is his opera Aribert Raimond's Lear, based on the Shakespeare play King Lear. This is a duet with Cordelia, played by Julia Varade.
That's why his fourth wife.
Yeah. As Cordelia, this is after he's kind of lost it. And like, you can hear like the sensitivity of every note, even when like it's doing these strange things, you can, there's something really special about when people composed for Dietrich Fischer Dieskau. And because he was such an incredible technician and had this huge array, this reputation from Lieder, that people would risk money on recordings. There are so many operas that Deutsche Grammophon recorded with Dietrich Fischer Dieskau that I think would be completely unknown if he had never championed them. And this is possibly one of them. Like I said, this is from the near the end of Lear. Just a really cool moment from the opera.
Heden Nacht, ja wird in Frankreich, in einem Königreich, habe Geduld mit mir, bitte vergiss, ich bin's alt und kindisch. Jetzt sollst du jetzt will ich
Help us spread the word about my weird operas and Dietrich Fischer Dieskau and Opera Box Score by giving us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And you can write us a review as well there. Right now, it's the 2-minute drill.
This just in. The 2-minute drill.
All right, listen up. Here's everything you need to know about what happened in Operaland this week.
As the inaugural guest on Miranda Devine's Podforce 1, Donald Trump claims he was a musical genius during his short tenure as a flutist. The following quote has not been edited for clarity. I do have an ear for music. I think music played a big role. I played great music. People liked the music I played. They'd play a note on the piano, and I remember to this day. Then they'd play notes later on, and they say which is the note we played from 1 hour ago, and I'd like to get it right, I guess, but that was a long time ago.
The Kennedy Center audience greeted our flutist-in-chief with boos as he entered the theater for a performance of Les Miserables, while a cohort of drag queens at the same performance were greeted with enthusiastic cheers. Interim Kennedy Center President Rick Grinnell deflected when asked for comment on the incident, instead speaking about the, quote, multiple anonymous sources who said the cast of Les Mis would absolutely boycott the opening at Kennedy Center and shut down the show. That story was fake news. They aren't interested in accuracy. They are about attention and clicks. It's sick and manipulative and immoral.
I mean, he would know. In an update to Grammy Award eligibility, composers and librettists will now be recognized alongside other key creative personnel, including artists, producers, and engineers on winning classical albums. Better start learning how to spell Royce Vavrick and Mark Campbell, Grammy engravers.
In major award news, Daniel Barenboim has been awarded the Paul Peace Prize in recognition of outstanding services to the preservation of world peace for his work fostering cross-border dialogue between young Arab and Israeli musicians in the Eastern Divan Orchestra.
First Nations soprano Emma Pennell is the 2025 recipient of Canada's RBC Emerging Artist Award. Pennell said, "Not many people who come from places that I come from have had these opportunities, and so I owe it all to the Indigenous people that I've met along the way. Our voices, our art, our performances, and our bodies belong on these stages just like everybody else."
British tenor Samuel Stopford won first prize in the Polish National Opera's International Stanislaw Moniuszko Vocal Competition, which comes with a €20,000 prize, along with career development and performance opportunities.
In one final piece of major award news, the Met's Laffont competition is expanding to South America next year, with new districts in Argentina, Chile, and Colombia. Those who advance will compete in the regional competition in Santiago, Chile, and the winner or winners from that region will compete in the 2026 national semifinals in New York at the Met in March.
In trade news, friend of the show Amanda Forsythe has joined the faculty of the DePaul University School of Music as professional lecturer of voice starting this fall. Friend of the show Jake Heggie is also going back to school, joining the composition faculty of the San Francisco Conservatory of Music.
Susie Gomez Pizzo, wardrobe supervisor at the Metropolitan Opera House for 18 years, has retired. Pizzo became known as the Diva Whisperer over the course of her career and was cherished by colleagues for her calm demeanor despite crises and clashes of large personalities on and off stage.
Ivan Lopez Reynoso is set to become principal conductor of the Atlanta Opera starting next season. He succeeds Arthur Fagan, who held the post for 20 years. Meanwhile, Jean-Pierre Primiani was appointed general director of Opéra de Montréal, replacing Patrick Corrigan.
Crunching the numbers, the Metropolitan Opera's season attendance has dropped slightly following the Trump administration's immigration crackdown and the subsequent decrease in New York tourism. "We were on track to continue to improve," Peter Gelb said. "We were disappointed by the sales in the last 2 months of the season. Our projections were much higher." The Mets sold 72% of capacity, matching the 2023-24 box office, down 3% from what it anticipated. International buyers accounted for 11% of sales, down from the Mets' projection of 16% and from about 20% before the COVID pandemic.
Exit stage right, American soprano Dinah Bryant has died at age 71. Bryant performs at a number of leading opera houses, including Opera de Bellas Artes, Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires, and the Metropolitan Opera, where she sang as the Valkyrie Gerhilde. She also appeared as the voice of the leading lady in the 1989 film The Music Teacher with José Van Damme, for which she was awarded a Grand Prix du Disque.
And on this day, June 17th, 1710 saw the first performance of André Compra's opera Les Fêtes Vénitiennes in Paris. Donizetti's La Lettera non nomina premiered in 1822 in Naples. Victor Herbert's operetta Babes in Toyland premiered in hometown team Chicago in 1903. 1924 saw the first performance of Folkbar André's Abenteuer des Casanova in Dresden. Frank Martin's Der Sturm originally premiered in 1956. That was written with Dietrich Fischer Dieskau in mind, though he was ill for the first performance and unable to appear. Samuel Barber's A Hand of Bridge premiered at the Spoleto Festival in Italy in 1959. And Leonard Bernstein's opera A Quiet Place premiered in 1983 at Houston Grand Opera with John DeMaine conducting.
Birthdays on this day include German timpanist and inventor of the pedal kettle drum Ernst Fundt, born this day in 1806. French composer, conductor, and organist Charles Gounod was born this day in 1818. French baritone Victor Morel, born in Marseille on this day in 1848. Russian mezzo-soprano Maria Slavina was born in St. Petersburg. She created roles in operas by Taneyev and Tchaikovsky. She was born this day in 1858. Russian-American composer Igor Stravinsky was born on this day in 1882. Two American composers, one in 1910, Herbert Owen Reed, born in Odessa, Missouri, and one in 1912, Don Gillis, born in Cameron, Missouri. Interesting. And on this day, June 17th, happy birthday to countertenor Derek Lee Reagan.
And that's your 2-minute drill.
Sempre
A little bit of an incredible scene from the movie The Music Teacher, or La Maître de Musique, which features the voice of Dinah Bryant. I don't know if you saw that movie, Matt, but it's
I've never seen it, actually.
It's more my generation, and
From the silent era.
We didn't need words, we had faces.
yeah, sort of solidified a passion for opera. And José Van Damme, incredible actor. He could definitely have been just a film actor, but perfectly cast in this movie. If you have a chance to check it out, I recommend.
Do you think that Donald Trump could have been a professional flutist?
Good question.
I mean, if he can remember pitches 65 years later, it does seem like he would stand a chance.
Those were good notes that he remembered. Yeah.
The best notes. No one has better notes than him. The Kennedy Center thing, obviously Les Mis is such an interesting choice for Donald Trump specifically to go to.
He definitely doesn't know what it's about.
I will say, this brings up something that I think about a lot in our age, and that is maybe Bertolt Brecht was right. Maybe you need someone to come out of character on stage and be like, hey, this is you. This is what it's about, Donnie. And
it is honestly evidence in favor of all the arguments for the anti-mega musical people who just say that it's shallow and meaningless, that a piece like Les Mis, which is pretty straightforward and direct, is possibly there's just so much stage business that no one is really paying attention to what's happening.
Matt, can you parse this whole boycott by the performers and the drag queens and the...
Yeah, so I guess there were some rumors circulating that the cast of Les Mis would refuse to perform, which evidently did not happen because the performance did go on. And so that gives some grist to the Rick Grinnell umbrage machine to go on there and deflect from having to comment on the response that Donald Trump got in the crowd, because he can just say, well, everything's fake news because people were talking about how this performance wasn't going to happen, and it did happen. So that's all there is to it. And was I pretty excited when I saw people tweeting about the boos at the Kennedy Center, and did the clip that I watched make it seem like the boos were definitely louder than the people who were cheering for him and cheering USA at the Kennedy Center, which he famously recently took over and did, I'm sure, paper the house with many of his supporters. Yes. I want it to be true that the boos were louder. I want it to be true that he was angry about the boos. But in this day and age, who can really say for sure?
It's never a fun time. Even if, even when the boos are happening, there's still the greater wound is still there. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Donald Trump,
which we all have to all the time for some reason.
Unfortunately. Remember when this was an opera podcast? No, the Metropolitan Opera sales being down specifically because, their international audience is down, I think is actually very telling. So when I initially saw the headlines, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if where they're pulling that from. But then I saw the stats for international travelers. And it is true. International travel to the U.S. has dropped precipitously over the last, 6 months or so, due to, people being stopped and, interrogated and often held for not being in the right, skin color, frankly, but also, coming from countries with bans or, it is legitimately a problem. And it's something that we really hammer home a lot here, is that opera truly is an international art form. Free hopping of borders professionally is essential for basically anyone but a German. You have to be able to cross in order to enjoy and perform in operas, and it's an essential part of it. And I will be interested to see how much this trend, goes up, changes, maybe Peter Gelb was way off and people just weren't really interested in the last quarter of the season. But man,
could also be true, but it seems unlikely to me that they would have expected like that kind of a deviation of international people from year over year, and 5% is a pretty significant drop.
It's pretty massive. It's really massive. But that's not stopping them from going to South America for new singers, trying to fill in the gap, I guess. I mean, there's a ton of talent in South America. I think that some of our most exciting singers are for the last 50 years or so have been coming out of South America.
The thing is that I wonder if this is intentional. Like if it's like in your face, type of action,
just to light the fire under American conservatories.
Yeah. Exactly. No, but also to do something like this, like to bring people from Venezuela and Chile, South America into the U.S.
Yeah. Is it a political statement? Is it just needing more people, or is it just kind of a cool idea?
Schrodinger's protest is the most effective kind of protest.
And that's kind of what you need to do sometimes in these interesting times we live in. Let's wrap this show up.
Good call, bad call on Opera Box Score.
Good call, bad call. That's how we end the show. I'm going to start with Oliver Camacho.
Just the final wrap up on Boston Early Music Festival and just the hospitality that I receive when I'm there. I'm sure that they treat their actual paying donors as well as they treat me. But it really makes me feel like I want to get rich and just put them in my planned giving plan. It's such a wonderful event, and I'm ready. I've got the blues that I'm home. But once again, the centerpiece opera for 2027 is Telemann's Emma und Egenhard. So brush off your Emma und Egenhard arias for your audition.
We all know so many of them. Matt
Who doesn't
Cummings.
have that in our starting five? We're going to share a story in the show notes from the New York Times about the Metropolitan Opera Children's Chorus tryouts, which I just found to be a real feel-good read in a week of lots of lots of trade news and Trump news, and one of those is a lot more fun than the other. But I started I first fell in love with singing by being in children's chorus, and there are so many amazing opportunities for the children's chorus in Carmen or Bohème or Let's Hope Someday Soon, the Fairies in Midsummer Night's Dream, and no one does it better than the Met in that area. So interesting to see a little bit behind the curtain.
I was too tall for the children's chorus. That is it for this week's edition of America's Talk Radio Show about opera. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Get your voice heard and find links to stuff we've talked about at our website, operaboxscore.com. That's also where you can put your money where our mouths are. Give back to the OBS using the Support the Team tab. Your announcer is Norm Waddell. Your creative consultant is Oliver Camacho, and your audio editor is me. The executive producer of the OBS is George Cedarquist. For co-host Matt Cummings and our guests Amanda Forsythe and Benjamin Appl, I'm Weston Williams, asking you to continue the conversation about opera as you guess which note was played an hour ago. We're back with an all-new show next week when countertenor and director Drew Minter joins us to preview Haymarket Opera's Artaserse. Plus you get more opera headlines, more hot takes, and more Telemann bangers. Join us.